Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrating the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Welcome, everybody, to yet another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. I'm Blade Daly, and I am good and goddamn ready to bring you yet another episode of this show. Because this time, I am joined by my friend from Spain, from Madrid,
Hola.
Justin Rey. Justin, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Hi, Blade. How are you?
I'm really good, man. Really good. We talk all the time, but this is the first time I've ever seen your beautiful face.
And not bald like Tanahashi.
You are not bald like Tanahashi. You are a beautiful man. And we have a very special episode because we are joined by the Filipino Fighting Rooster, Mr. Philippine Wrestling, the Señorito. That's right. He's a two-time MWF champion, two-time PWR champion, and a PHX champion. We're talking with the Philippines' own Jake De Leon. Jake,
hey, thank you for having me, Blade and Justin. I am really excited to be on Sit Down, Shut Up, and Mark Out. So thank you guys, and thank you to everyone listening right now.
We are talking today about the Philippine wrestling scene, kind of the Asian collaboration of wrestling, and it's something that in America and in kind of in the West we just don't know anything about. And so Justin is good enough to ask you to come on. You were good enough to oblige, and so we're gonna educate some people, including ourselves. Justin, you want to dive in? You want to ask some questions of Mr. De Leon?
Yes, of course. So before I start, let me just preface this. We're both from the same university. We're from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're from the Big Four in the Philippines, Ateneo de Manila. So nice to meet a fellow Atenean here. So
Awesome.
That's great. So now that I've said that, let's go back to the beginning of your pro wrestling journey. I'd like to ask you, what was your first memory of pro wrestling as a kid growing up in the Philippines?
Ooh. I've answered this question many a times, but I definitely love answering this question because it's just so funny to me what my first wrestling memory was. I've said that it was me sneaking out of my room at 9 p.m. because I was 4 years old at the time, so I couldn't stay up that late, nor should I be watching wrestling at all. I was watching TV, and the first thing that popped up was an old WWF, which is now a WWE episode, and it was a bloody Stone Cold being stomped on by The Undertaker or Kane. I don't really remember which of the two it was. So I don't know what happened with my 4-year-old brain at the time, but that it ingrained in me no, I need to watch more of this. I don't know why. I need to watch more of that. So every time I would try to keep sneaking out of my room at 9 p.m. There was only one channel back then in the Philippines that would show it. And for the Filipino listeners, it would be RPN 9. So yeah, I just kept watching. For some reason, it showed some WCW. It also showed old WWF. And from then on, I was hooked. My parents would catch me from time to time. They would say I should stop watching it, but by the time I don't know, middle school came around, they couldn't really stop me anymore. So they just let it happen.
Yeah, no, that's a wild era to think of a 4-year-old watching.
Yeah, shows my age
well,
too. So.
So basically the gigantic vampire dead guy and his brother are stomping on the redneck bloody guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that looks cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah. I got to know more. And so growing up, whom did you watch? Kind of, was it WWF? Was it
back then, in the Philippines back then, they primarily showed WWF, and then when it transitioned to WWE, it was more WWE. The guys that I really followed back then, when I was younger, it was definitely Stone Cold and The Rock, because these are the big personalities. They did I don't know what it was about them, but kids just really liked watching how they wrestled. Obviously, when I got older and when The Rock's time and Stone Cold's time passed on, I transitioned over to John Cena. because everyone thought John Cena was cool. White rapper, very Eminem. But yeah, like everyone, like for some reason, we had this club when I was in grade school. Well, yeah, when I was in grade school, we had this club called the Wrestling Bunch, or like we would come together like during lunchtime. We would like throw each other against the blackboard, like do wrestling moves on each other on the floor. Not the ones that you throw people on, because like we weren't that dumb, but like we would try the figure four leg lock on everyone. So like I feel like it just ever since that memory happened, like when I was 4 years old, pro wrestling has always just been a part of my life. Not really like knowing how big it would eventually become, but like I just for some reason I just love the action. I just love the characters. I just love the whole spectacle of it all. And here I am now, a pro wrestler in the Philippines, trying to make my way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that, you know, we probably all have similar experiences, even the super fans like Justin and myself, where it's like, it just connects with you in this very special way. And I remember as a kid, I had never watched wrestling, and I did a sleepover at my buddy's house, and his parents rented like a Starcade or something from WCW from like Starcade 86 or something. It was like it had the scaffold match in it. And every other kid fell asleep, and I was just like, no, like I was like wide awake watching this stuff. It was so much fun. And I couldn't believe they fell asleep. I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I get it. Like it's a different feeling when you watch with friends, for sure. Like I remember, because I fell out of it for a while, and then I was at another sleepover with my friends, and like it was the first ever version of the SmackDown Raw draft. And I was like, they brought a basketball concept into pro wrestling. I'm good. I'm hooked. I'm a Filipino. I love basketball. And then pro wrestling does a draft. I'm like, I'm in. I'm back in.
Yeah.
I remember my first exposure to wrestling, just because like everyone around me was telling me, don't watch it, it's too violent, like there's already a lot of violence around the streets. I grew up in like in the south of Manila, Laguna, so like not really ghetto, but like kind of dangerous. So they're like, Justin, don't be like that, and then when I started watching the Attitude Era, I was like, oh wow, I need to watch more. And then
the best way to make a kid not do something is to tell them not to do it, really. I mean,
right.
Don't try this at home, they say.
Yeah. There were instances, actually. I wanted to talk about that advert, right? Like, they also syndicated the don't try this at home commercials. And the more we saw that, the more I wanted to, like,
the more you wanted to do it.
I was an altar boy too, so I suplexed the new guys, and they were like, "Okay, you're in."
You're kicking altar boy ass. You're just Jesus.
That was great. Anyways, so speaking of suplexing, did you always know that you wanted to be a pro wrestler, or was there like a moment in your life where it clicked? Like, oh shit, I want to be a pro wrestler. And I want to take it seriously.
Really. Like, quite honestly, like I never really went through life thinking I was going to be a pro wrestler. Number one, because just going through school, I just really wanted to like graduate, just like, like make sure my parents' money aren't being like wasted. So like it was really, so, like in our lives, like we fall in and out of love with pro wrestling sometimes. Some people say it's cool, not cool anymore, so we don't watch it and we pick it back up again. I picked it back up again in college because I just needed something to like pass the time. So I started watching pro wrestling again. And also there was that one show in the Philippines that had a lot of ex-WWE guys come on. Like there was a show headlined by Shelton Benjamin, Chris Masters, Carlito, those guys who were just fresh off of their WWE runs at the time. And then they came to the Philippines in around 2013, 2014. So that I was kind of like rehooked back then in college, and I was thought, okay, so I like wrestling again. And then I never really thought of it like as something that I would do until there was something that I saw on Facebook, because back then I was just looking for like, I don't know what it was, dirt sheets or like updates in terms of like pro wrestling news, because like I couldn't really keep up because I had a day job as well. So as I was looking for communities, there was a community that was starting up a pro wrestling promotion in the Philippines, and that was PWR. That was I was like, okay, these guys really serious? Are they gonna really try to become pro wrestlers? Is this a thing that we want to to do. Me in my first job brain and just being so tired of the 9 to 5, I just really wanted to do something to, like, I don't know, maybe this will be something that I'll enjoy. If I don't make it, I can at least help them with marketing, because I really just want a promotion in the Philippines to help out, because my day job is basically digital marketing. So I tried out. We did like the first training. I took my first bump, and from then on, I don't know what it is with my brain again. My brain is weird. After the first bump, I kind of fell in love with it. And I just kept coming back every week. We were doing the training in like a boxing ring in a dingy, like it was an army base. Actually, there was an army base that had a boxing ring that let civilians come in. You can pay and like use their facilities, and we were there every week bumping until we finally were able to start our first show. So that was my introduction into the pro wrestling business. All we had was that old John Cena, I think it was UWF or something, training DVD that is also on YouTube right now. That was what we used to learn, and basically we just built off of that. We were thankful that a lot of like, you know, Filipino wrestlers who are like living in other countries, who were just happen to be Filipino and like coming back home sometimes to go on vacation, and like just wanted to check us out, help us train, and we just kept getting better and better, thankfully.
Wow. So that's like kind of like a very guerrilla style of
definitely.
Yeah.
It's like creating a business to get into the business. Like,
yeah,
that's unbelievable, man. That's
So,
awesome.
I think that's pretty much how a lot of like Southeast Asia has done. Like Southeast Asia isn't really a market back then. 10 years ago, it was a market that the WWE or like the bigger federations or like even pro wrestling, even Japan didn't really look at. And like we were all just hungry for pro wrestling. I'm pretty sure you'll find similar stories if you talk to people in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Thailand. It's basically just like bare bones. We're trying to build something out of nothing, and it's just the passion fueling it, and that's where we are today.
Yeah, so I was also checking like Cage Match, the website. Like I was also like researching some like organizations in Southeast Asia, right? And I've like I think this was sometime around like 2008 up to 2012 to 14. That's when a lot of these organic promotions like start. That's when they started like sprouting about, you know. So now to me that's very interesting, and what I really am impressed by is how you guys reverse engineered that YouTube video and trained yourselves with it. But like there's a little bit, I don't want to talk about it, right? I don't want to delve too much into it, but like there's some sort of privilege coming from like, you know, developed nations. I don't want to talk about the economy, but like in the lens of pro wrestling, there's also there's also this thing going on, like because in Spain, like where I'm at, there's like maybe 3 wrestling gyms that I've seen. I've attended one, but like I gave up.
It's not for everyone, sadly, but like that's fine. But that I understand where you're coming from, honestly, and like I think more so than it being like a privileged nation thing, I think it's more of like a pro wrestling. It's not really like economics privilege. It's more like pro wrestling privilege. So my opponent, like coming up this actually, like I'm not sure when this episode is coming out, but like on May 18th, I'll be teaming up with Zack Sabre Jr. going up against Fabio Makisig and El Fantasmo. My opponent, Fabio Makisig, actually put it best that I really like the way he said it, but like 3 years ago, he said that the god of pro wrestling doesn't really smile down on the Philippines. Like we're not a USA, we're not a Canada, we're not a Japan, we're not a place that pro wrestling god naturally smiles upon. So I took that as something that, you know, he's right, and like technically we're trying to go against God's wishes in a way. That we want to build something here where it's not really like all that easy, nor is it like completely feasible or possible to do. But that's something we want to do. Like it's like going back to your awe of like us reverse engineering. We picked that one DVD apart so much, and then we were just very, very lucky actually. Like sometimes the god of wrestling smiles down on us with like having Filipinos who are abroad who are actually pro wrestlers come home and like help train us. All the people who heard about us that take their time out. There's no money in this thing. We really like for the first actually, up until now, there's really no money in this thing. But like, we were just lucky enough that a lot of pro wrestlers took notice of the Philippines and like, oh, I want to like wrestle in the Philippines. I want to like see how the Philippines does. And I guess the god of pro wrestling smiles down on us in that way. He's giving us like little rain showers of grace. Whereas like, we're definitely not a US, we're definitely not a Canada, we're not a Mexico, we're not a Japan, but we're definitely a Philippines, and we're trying to make our own way in this world of pro
Yeah,
wrestling.
100%. Yeah. No, that's badass. I appreciate that. But like,
Super. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Very
Fabio.
badass.
Yeah, Fabio is the one who like, I don't know where he thought of that, but like it was spur of the moment, and like like Fabio is like the man too.
yeah, I've read his Substack, the one where the one which you reacted to. That was a very strong like plea for a messiah, which we'll be talking about later, obviously. But like going back to the guerrilla training, right? Like, was there anyone more senior who trained you, or was it just like everyone like started off at the same level then?
Everyone pretty much started off the same level. I guess there was one guy that you could say was a little bit more senior, but the only reason he was more senior was because he did backyard wrestling stunts or videos.
Oh, wow.
So his name is Bombay Suarez, like one of the OGs of PWR.
Okay.
He's one of the craziest guys I've ever met. Like he does these, like, he takes videos of himself and his friends like doing backyard wrestling matches on just like a lawn in the backyard, and the dude has actively gigged himself on one of those backyard wrestling matches. Like, he was bleeding, and I was like, why would you do that? I'm like, I'm not sure, but like yeah, like in terms of like seniority, I guess, or like being more senior, Bombay had that sense of no fear of just going about it that we all kind of like were drawn to, because he's done these stupid things in his life. We can try out at least this tiny little stupid thing in our lives, and we like a lot of Pinoy wrestling would not exist without Bombay, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, and that is the nature of innovation, right? It's one stupid person who encourages everybody else to just be a little more stupid. So,
yeah, that's true.
And eventually everybody gets really brave through their stupidity. And you create a movement, man.
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
Look at the Philippines now. There's like, I think 2 or 3 promotions
there's
3
active, right now. Yeah. No, then 4. 4.
4 promotions.
Yeah,
there's Dexcon, right? Which is
Dexcon. Dexcon is pretty much like the promotion that wants to do like these big international shows.
Right.
So is like the homegrown one. So the local talents were very unforgiving in terms of like our Filipino-ness. We talk in Tagalog. We do we do our segments in Tagalog. We speak to people in Tagalog. We have World Underground Wrestling, which is a subsidiary of like the World Underground Wrestling promotion in Japan. This one's more hard hitting. It's more underground. It's like the only way you win is like by knockout or submission. Like there's no pinfalls. The chains are ropes. And obviously we have Filipino Pro Wrestling as well. So yeah, those are the 4 that we have currently in the Philippines, thanks to the movement that we started 10 years ago.
Wow.
And like, dude, obviously there's Puso and WUW, the Philippine subsidiary, right? I know that you guys collaborate, but like with the other 2, how's the collaboration scene within the Philippines though? So
Dexcon, World Underground Wrestling, and Puso, we all collaborate. We all kind of work together. We all do our shows out of the same gym right now. And then there's FPW. So like when it comes to like everything that you're seeing from me, it's a collaboration of Puso, World Underground Wrestling, and Dexcon. Dexcon, I feel like, is more, we're trying to cater more towards the international, like to you guys, honestly, to the international scene, where that's why Dexcon has a deal with Triller TV, the same streaming site that AEW is on, like a lot of other like GCW events are on. Puso, we're trying to make our way in the local scene. We're trying to like use YouTube to our advantage and like hopefully get a stronger Filipino base and like get more Filipinos in on the pro wrestling thing. And World Underground Wrestling is doing their own thing. They are some of the craziest MFers I've ever met in my life. So.
Yeah, I watched an intergender match, I think, that you had in Puso. I can't remember that was
Chelsea Marie, I believe.
Yeah, it's Chelsea Marie. Yeah, that was a fun match. That was a fun match.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah.
No, that's very cool. That's very cool. And just very like, for somebody like myself, some just average white dude from America who's been spoiled with pro wrestling access my whole life. It's really cool to hear a story of people really fighting to make a scene happen. I can relate to that as a musician in some ways where, like the kind of music you want to do isn't really happening in your area. So you have to like find a couple people that maybe have a similar view and then you get a scene going, and very similar, but that's super cool, man. That's super cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And speaking of Philippine promotions, right now you refer to yourself as Mr. Philippine Wrestling. So, how did your identity as a Filipino, as a Pinoy, right? How did it shape How did it shape you, or how did it shape the kind of wrestler you wanted to become?
I don't know if it shaped the kind of wrestler. I don't know if my Filipino-ness of me being a Filipino shaped the kind of wrestler I wanted to become. It definitely is existent in like my pro wrestling and like me being a pro wrestler. But like, I don't know if my citizenship or my identity actually helped out. But in terms of like, I guess what people don't really realize about Filipinos, or maybe they do, maybe they like subconsciously know this thing about Filipinos, but we're all just basically, we're all fame whores. We all want to be famous. We all want to be in front of the camera. We all want to be like the center of attention. You've seen like billions upon billions of Filipino singers who like just wow everyone for some reason. So we're natural born entertainers. It helps that we're kind of like really into like, into being famous in a sense. We're also very much into violence. We love Manny Pacquiao. We love watching these kinds of like MMA fights as well. Pro wrestling is like with Filipinos, it's kind of like a love-hate thing. Like once they find out that pro wrestling is fake, people kind of like get turned off. But like they kind of can't see beyond like what pro wrestling offers besides it being labeled as fake. But basically, the Filipinos that do love pro wrestling are just like I'd still say this day that like I feel whoever has not wrestled in the Philippines yet will be very, very surprised by how the Filipino audience reacts to them or like chants for them. I've still to this day, there's a lot of like we've had a lot of international guests that tell us that they've never really like wrestled in front of a crowd like a Filipino crowd, especially in a dingy like gym. Yeah, especially like a small venue, really hot small venue with like 150 to 200 Filipinos just like chanting the weirdest shit at them, and then they're just having the time of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's much like a Filipino concert, right? Whenever like someone popular comes, like for example, like Taylor Swift, everyone goes like that shit crazy, right? And like some Filipinos actually like sing along. So I'm guessing it's the same energy that they bring.
I feel like because of how deprived we were of pro wrestling for a while, because there was maybe like a 5-year span where pro wrestling was not even on TVs in the Philippines. So like we were all just looking for like that pro wrestling fix, the fans anyway. So like every time there's a show now, especially if there's like an international guest like a Zack Sabre Jr. or like even people from like Choco Pro, like the Best Bros, the Filipino audience who are there to watch the pro wrestling show are very, very excited and ready to just like, kind of not really put themselves over, but like make sure that they're an audience that these foreign wrestlers, these international guests will not forget anytime soon.
Right.
Absolutely. So speaking of like kind of foreign, wrestlers, can you talk to us about kind of an excursion or tour that you've been on? What surprises you the most about wrestling away from the Philippines when you've been able to do that?
Honestly, the thing that surprises me the most, not really a surprise, but like I'm just like always in awe when I go on excursions at times. The Southeast Asian excursions are pretty much the same when it comes to the Philippines because we don't do shows that often. Like a lot of promotions in Southeast Asia do shows like once a month, and that's at best. So it's always like a fun time going to different countries though, like countries like Singapore, like Thailand, like Malaysia, it's always interesting to see how their audience reacts because I have the baseline of the Filipino audience, but like seeing as how would a Thai audience react? How would a Singaporean audience react? How would a Malaysian audience react? So that's always interesting. But the biggest eye-opening excursion I had was going to Japan. Definitely, I went to Japan last year. I had 10 days there. I had 4 matches, which is like in a 10-day span. It's pretty much unheard of for like Southeast Asian pro wrestlers. I was lucky enough to be invited by Chris Brooks to his Fucked Up Fest, the Bakugaijin Fucked Up Fest. I was invited by
Nice.
Choco Pro to a couple of shows. I was
Nice.
invited to wrestle with Choco Pro in Kirken Hall. I've wrestled in Kirken Hall. And the thing that kind of opened my eyes so much about like wrestling in Japan was just how much wrestling they have, how much wrestling they provide, how much wrestling they consume. So like as a pro wrestler, I can see why a lot of pro wrestlers dream of going to Japan because of like just how available it is, or like as long as you're like a good wrestler, as long as like you're someone that like, you know, that they can trust in terms of performing in the ring or like performing on a mat. I was very lucky to be invited by Chris Brooks, by Emi Sakura, by Maso Takanashi, by everyone there. I was also invited to Hot Shushu, which trains with Ice Ribbon, so a little bit. So like
okay.
I also got matches there. So it's interesting. Like that was the first time I've ever had 2 matches in one day. I had the show in Kirken Hall for Choco Pro in the morning, and then I took a train all the way to Saitama from Tokyo, and then I had a
Wow.
match for Hot Shushu that evening. So like it was a great experience because this is how actual pro wrestlers in Japan do it. Like they have multiple shows a day. They just perform as much as they can and like make a living out of it. And it was awesome, really.
Yeah, when you look at the actual population of Japan and the size of Japan, and then you consider how many internationally known wrestling organizations there are for a place that small, you know, it's incredible. How much wrestling gets supported, and the populace, you know, really will make it worth your time to have a promotion out there. You
Definitely,
know,
yeah.
you got Choco Pro, but you've all, you know, obviously New Japan and All Japan
course,
and
yeah.
Noah and all of these other spots. I mean, it's just wild that there's so much wrestling in a place so small and condensed. Yeah.
Definitely.
Like the culture is just so inculcated with like a lot of martial arts fighting. And like speaking about it personally, like I always every weekend I always have a hard time like catching up with all these wrestling shows because like I love watching Stardom, I love watching DDT. Noah, it gets too much for me sometimes, but like I just like I keep on doing it just because like the quality of wrestling that they put out, it's amazing. But
It's so good, yeah.
yeah. And I'm glad that you were able to like have this experience of wrestling in Korakuen, just because like not everyone gets to do that, and it's it's sacred ground, I think, for a lot of pro wrestlers. So that's super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so-
I mean, Kurikan Hall is like church. I mean, that's like wrestling royalty. Like, wow.
Yeah, definitely.
You've been baptized, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I guess I wanted to shout this out also. Like one more thing I learned from the Japan trip, honestly, is like because I wrestled in Choco Pro and like I was there with Emi Sakura basically, and like I'm not sure if like this was something that you guys were gonna touch on, but like the reason why I became like I'm still Mr. Philippine Wrestling, but like I became the Filipino Fighting Rooster. It was all thanks to that Japan trip, honestly, because like Emi Sakura just straight dead face looked me in the face and like, besides being a wrestler from the Philippines, what are you? And I'm like, yo, what am I? So like I kind of had an existential crisis. I had an existential crisis in Japan. I was like trying to mull over like, what am I? Who am I? Who am I as a wrestler? Like, what am I just a wrestler from the Philippines? Is like everything. So like that really made me think, and like I've already been using like the chicken logo, the chicken heart logo. Basically, it just all kind of boiled down to like this whole Filipino Fighting Rooster thing, which I feel has been popping off, thankfully, because of like how people just like are kind of like it's either they find the chicken mask, the rooster mask funny, or like kids really like seeing the rooster mask. But basically, it's like I just wanted to kind of explain it because I don't think I've ever explained it in like any media or anything. But basically, the rooster is kind of like a symbol of like strength in the Philippines. It's not a good. I'd say it's a good and bad symbol of strength because in the Philippines there's cockfighting, like a lot of illegal cockfighting.
Right.
It's illegal, but like it's never gonna be like shut down because of how ingrained it is in Filipino culture. But like basically, if you lose, if you as the rooster lose in that fight, you become dinner. So like essentially, I kind of treated like I've kind of after Emi Sakura told me that, and I've kind of like thought of it like really. Every match that I have right now is essentially like a fight for my life, a fight for my wrestling life, because I don't want this to end. I want to be able to do this for as long as I can, for as high of a level as I can. So that Japan trip not only like showed me the life of a pro wrestler, it just like kind of ingrained the mentality of a pro wrestler for me, or like whatever I need to do to make it to the next level, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Which is why the Filipino Fighting Rooster is so close to me, because if I lose this fire, I'm basically dinner. So
yeah, no, that's great, and I think that's a great perspective for people who watch your matches to have. Is
thank you.
Yeah, it's like a life or death thing, you know, and you're kind of fighting for. Just to have another match, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
That's super cool. Especially when you're a baby face, kind of like fighting from underneath, you know?
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I really enjoy. Lately, I've been seeing some clips that you've been like posting on Instagram, like you coming out of the entrance ramp with the Filipino. With the chicken. No, with the rooster. Sorry, with the rooster
no problem.
mask. Yeah. Yeah, it's been great. Anyway, so regarding like you being out on excursions, right? Like with, for example, like you've wrestled in Setup Thailand. A lot of people have been watching it on Blue Sky, like even like people outside of Southeast Asia, which I think is really cool. SPW in Singapore and like other promotions in Japan. Like for these excursions, like who reached out first regarding you being booked, or were you the one who reached out? And as a follow-up question to that, like how have those experiences shaped your approach to being booked or just to being booked?
So back then, maybe around 2017, I did the whole thing where I put together like a highlight reel. I sent out emails. I tried to contact them on social media. So I believe I definitely reached out to all of these places first, and they because I did the thing where I reached out. They probably didn't get back to me. They probably didn't reply to me. But thankfully, because I did, they kind of had an idea of who I was. In terms of like the Southeast Asian promotions, because we're all kind of like close to each other, we all kind of like keep tabs on each other. I remember seeing clips of like old SPW, my PW setup way back like maybe 7 to 10 years ago. So I would know about these guys. We just really didn't know how to link up, nor did we feel like we could link up because, you know, it's expensive to fly to other countries. It's also like we don't know if we have these guys over, will we be a draw or whatever. So thankfully they knew about me and they reached out. In terms of Japan, we were lucky enough to have Emi Sakura and Masa Takanashi find out about us. I don't remember how they found out about us. I think they knew about Crystal, or they heard about Crystal through the other Southeast Asian promotions, because they wrestled in Thailand. They basically helped set up the whole pro wrestling scene in Thailand. And then they probably found out about us through Pumi from Set Up Thailand Pro Wrestling. He knew about the other countries. So they made their way over to the Philippines back in 2018, I believe it was, and then they had a show for us, and then that's how they found out about me. They told us, hey, if you're ever in Japan, if you want to train, you're more than welcome to. Thankfully, like, we still kept that connection, and until now, like, I try my best not to be like a kind of like a burden on bookers. Like, I know, like, it's hard, like, especially from a guy from the Philippines. Like, I'll have to fly in. I only really reach out if I know that this is a place I want to go, because difficulty with a lot of like up and coming pro wrestlers is definitely, are we worth the trip? Are we worth like to bring over? Are we a draw, especially for like promoters? Because I've been on the promoter side as well. It's not that easy. So I always make sure that if I'm reaching out, I'm going to be ready to be the one to like handle a lot of my expenses, because I really want to, I really want to show them what I can do. And thankfully, like, a lot of these promotions were able to give me the chance to show them what I do. The first promotion that kind of like the first country that ever took a chance on me was Malaysia, and like it was a weird it was a weird show in a circus tent back in 2017 where I met British Strong Style and like a lot of other Southeast Asian pro wrestlers as well. So thanks to that, we were able to like make connections, know each other, and then eventually like it's basically like who has the money to fly out and like have a trip, have a show, have a trip here, and that kind of thing. Up till now, it's pretty much that way. We're trying to get it to a place where we are able to support our Southeast Asian talent better. But until then, it's pretty much like, this is how we're operating, and it's definitely hard, especially for like people who have like the financial issues, but like we're doing our best, and like we're just trying to help each other out the best that we can. So I'm very thankful to promotions like Setup, to SPW, to Malaysia Pro Wrestling, also on APAC Wrestling, and like I'm missing out a lot of others, VPW also. So like we're just doing our best to help each other survive and thrive.
Yeah, so let's take this in a slightly different direction. You've been in the ring. I watched your match with Zack Sabre Jr., a time limit draw, fantastic match, a lot of fun to watch.
Thank you.
You've been in the ring with ZSJ, who's one of the most popular non AEW WWE wrestlers in the world. TJP, Chris Brooks, Masahiro Takanishi, who kind of have been some of your favorite wrestlers to work with, either in tags or compete against?
All of them, honestly. It's like definitely like the ones that you've mentioned, like Chris Brooks and Masa Takanashi really helped shape my kind of understanding of like working with people who are better than me. Like always, like because obviously we would have a chat after the match. I would ask them for advice. They really helped mold my perspective. Zack Sabre Jr. is just like, he's the best technical wrestler in the world. You're not going to tell me otherwise. So like learning from him, getting to like see what level you kind of have to be in terms of like being a top champion, being at that top level. So I learned that a lot from him. TJP as well, former WWE. He's been around the world like more times than I've even like thought about like that. Yeah. So like learning from him as well, and like it's like everyone that I've been in the ring with who are better than me, I've always had a fun time learning from them, because it's something that I don't get to do often in the Philippines. In the Philippines, we pretty much grew up with each other. We pretty much are learning together. So whenever there's someone who's like way more experienced than us that come by and like wrestle against us or wrestle with us, it's always a great learning experience, honestly. And like I can't pick favorites because everyone like has a special place in my heart, a special place in my mind, definitely. And yeah, like even all the way back in 2017 to when I fought Billy Swade, all the way up to now, where I will be teaming with Zack Sabre Jr. and facing off against Fabio and El Fantasmo. That's going to be something very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's great. And has there been like a moment that you can think of, having shared the ring with these folks, where you're like, you know what, I belong here. Like, this is my place. Like I'm qualified to be here, like. Yeah.
I get what you're asking. It really, like, every time there was someone that comes along, I have the moment again, which is insane to me. So back in 2017, there was a pro wrestler from Canada. He's a Filipino-Canadian pro wrestler. His name was Billy Swade. 2017. We had the match back then. 2017, I feel it was the best Filipino pro wrestling match ever that happened, which kind of made me think, okay, I can hang with like the independent pro wrestlers out there. And then I had the match with TJP in 2019, and then it made me think, okay, I can hang with like the ex WWE wrestlers and like people who've been to the WWE, who've been to the mountaintop. And then I had the match with Chris Brooks and Masa Takanashi. Okay, I can hang with like tenured Japanese pro wrestlers, and like I can do this kind of style of pro wrestling with them. And then Zack Sabre Jr. happened. Okay, I can last 30 minutes in a classic against a technical wizard like Zack Sabre Jr. So every time there's a person that comes along, there's a great wrestler that comes along, I keep having that moment again that I belong here. Sometimes in the pro wrestler's journey, there's ups and downs. You always think that, okay, I had this great match, and then years happen, like years go by, nothing noteworthy ever happens. Not that I'm saying like the scene isn't noteworthy in itself, but like obviously as a pro wrestler, my pro wrestling is like I want to face off against the best. I want to get better. I want to get better by fighting these guys in the ring. And I'm always so glad that whenever they come, it always happens. Even like just recently tagging with Yoshitatsu, it was so eye-opening that it's just amazing to always have these moments. And I'm really thankful for all the promotions that make it possible. Obviously, Dexcon, Puso, World Underground Wrestling as well. It's just insane. Like this life has been like, I want more out of it. Obviously, I'm doing my best to make more of it, but whatever I've done so far is pretty damn awesome, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's
100%. Yeah.
Quite a career already. And I think a lot more to come. Now, you said, you hung with Zack Sabre for 30 minutes, and this dude's stretching the living shit out of you, I'm sure. And, and talking a bunch of shit while he's doing it. And how do you get in, like, what is your fitness regimen like? Currently, I mean, because you said before we got on the show, like you still have to work and stuff, like outside of wrestling, and then wrestle. I mean, you're grinding. So, like, how do you stay in ring shape? How do you do it all?
I just find the time whenever I can. So right now, my workout, I basically like work out 4 times a week. That's just going to the gym. That's all just like conditioning, cardio, weightlifting, and stuff. And then I do, like, we basically train in wrestling. We have multiple days of training in wrestling, but the only one I can actually go to is like on Sundays. So I train in wrestling once a week. And then in between those, I just watch as much wrestling as I can, just to make sure that I keep my wrestling game in there. So I feel like with the 30-minute match against Zack Sabre Jr., I'm just thankful that I was able to, like, keep my wrestling mind open, because like that was the hardest to deal with. Like I can prepare my body as much as I can against the Zack Sabre Jr., but like if my mind isn't ready, it's not gonna be a great match. And I'm just happy that a lot of people really enjoyed that match, quite honestly. So yeah, as you mentioned, like I also have a day job. Technically it's a night job because I work from, like, here in the Philippines, I work from 12 midnight all the way to 9 a.m. And then after that, I hit the gym at 10 a.m. And then after the gym, I just sleep. So it's there's not a lot of time in between to, like, kind of like have extracurriculars, and like I just find whenever I can to watch as much wrestling as I can, but I wouldn't change it any other way. Hopefully if this like pops off, and like I become a full-time wrestler, I have more time to do the fun stuff. But like as of now, my pro wrestling life dictates that I need a day job to fuel this passion that I have, to fund this dream that I have. So that's why I keep grinding.
Well, and that's really it, is like at the end of the day, like, you have to, in entertainment, any form of entertainment, you have to really, kind of almost break yourself just to get to a point of being recognized, and I don't think that people understand, like, how really, really, like wrestling isn't just fun. It's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and you're talking to me sitting in my apartment in Seattle, Washington, and Justin in Madrid, Spain, because of this work that you've done, and we've seen your stuff, that's so cool. Like, it's like, that's, this isn't like, we're not making your career here or anything, but like, this is a sign that, like, what you're doing is paying off. And thank you
so much.
You're attracting that attention from much further out than where you've competed,
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys.
Actually, like, also, like, to build off what, like, Blade said, I've been, obviously, like, I've started also, like, checking out Filipino wrestling, Pinoy wrestling during COVID, just because I didn't know if there was a scene, and I was very delighted to find out that there was several scenes, actually. And a lot of I've been checking out, like, several vignettes of other wrestlers, right? Like Crystal, for one, who's been featured on Netflix, Midnight Asia, I think. Chris Panzer, who
Yep.
who was given a compliment by Mick Foley even.
Yeah.
I don't I don't know where he is, and you especially, just because like I've been seeing you grind. There was like also an instance like maybe around 2001 2020 2021 to probably just 2024, where you turned heel and created a faction. That was great. I'm not sure if you saw this, Blake, but like he had a match with a female wrestler from the Philippines, Crystal, right?
Yeah.
She was about to enter the ring. JDL's already there. She was posing, doing the splits, and doing the usual entrance thing. And JDL super kicks and the match starts.
Just blast her from behind.
Nice. Well done.
I ain't waiting for any for any magical girl transformations. Like, get in the ring. Like, keep an eye on me. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
If you're in the ring, I'm kicking you.
Yeah.
Well, we had a ton of questions, and they're great questions, but if we asked them all, I think we'd be here for 3 hours. So
you can always have me back. Just let me know.
And I was just going to say, we will have you back. We would love to have you back. Anytime you have anything you want to promote or anything, we can always have you on the pod. What I was going to say is, let's talk about the future just a little bit. How are you going to prepare for ELP and Fabio?
I've been preparing. I'm doing my best to prepare. I've been watching a lot of tape in terms of like El Fantasmo. Definitely, I know Fabio. We have a really long history. We go all the way back to 2021, 2022. Right now, at this point, I frankly, I sometimes feel like people are sick of watching us go head to head. But like, I'm thankful that they're not, because we're just the two top guys in Filipino pro wrestling and Pinoy wrestling, honestly, and like, we have the opportunity to show out with people like Zack Sabre Jr. against people like El Fantasmo. So I've just been doing all my best to prepare there. And it's definitely weird to me, because this is one of the few instances where a show has been sold out like a whole month before it ever happened in the Philippine wrestling scene. And like, it's just so surreal to me, honestly, that this has happened. And like, we're very thankful, obviously, for our guests, Zack Sabre Jr. and El Fantasmo. But we're not gonna, knowing Fabio and knowing myself, we're not gonna let that blind us from the fact that we want to beat them, definitely, and like put our names out there in terms of like who Filipino wrestlers are, who Pinoy wrestlers are.
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah, and like in your most recent promo, just to add up on what you said, you said you're done waiting for a Messiah. Yeah. And my next question is like, are you ready to become that Messiah? Or like, are you ready to take on the helm? If not me being the main guy, but also like just, like being the example of what success is for Filipino wrestlers.
That promo that you mentioned, and I'm not sure if that, like, Blade has seen it, but like, basically I talked about how Fabio has been very open about looking for a messiah in Pinoy wrestling, because whenever people like Zack Sabre Jr. and El Fantasmo come, a lot of people watch our shows. A lot, like, it's sold out. But like, whenever it's just like a full Filipino wrestler, Pinoy wrestler show, we have a hard time selling out. We have a hard time like selling half the tickets sometimes, because not a lot of people know about Filipino wrestling. Not a lot of people like care to watch Filipino wrestling. And yeah, I do agree with Fabio in the fact that we need a messiah. We need that one person to be, for lack of a better example, that Hulk Hogan, that John Cena, who transcends Pinoy wrestling and like is in the pop culture mindset of everyone. And I'm actually just very tired of waiting. And like, maybe I took it as offense that Fabio is looking for that person, not really like saying or thinking or knowing that that person might be one of us currently. And I'm doing my best to be that person, because frankly, it's been tiring. Like, I feel like I've held the helm, so to speak, of Pinoy wrestling for 10 years now. And why can't it be me? Why shouldn't it be me? Why, like, I'm doing everything I can to like bring Pinoy wrestling out into the pro wrestling world, like get more people to know about Pinoy wrestling, to know about DexCon, to know about Puso, to know about World Underground Wrestling. So I don't know what it's gonna take to get there, but I'm not gonna quit anytime soon. Is the thing that I want to say.
Yeah. What? Yeah. So sorry, Blake. Just to build up on that, like you've been trying, and I see the fruits of your labor, and I also see the amount of effort the entire roster does, whether whether it be Dexcon or Puso, and to me, it's like very obviously very resilient as Filipinos, but also very impressive, very impressive that you guys have started like a movement.
Thank you so much.
So
And really, all we need are like guys like you to talk about us, to let other people know about us. Hopefully, we'll reach the international waters. Hopefully, more people in the Philippines know about us. But until then, we're not gonna stop. So the resilience that you're talking about is very much ingrained in Filipino culture, and that resiliency is what I believe will take us to the next level.
Well, so in saying that, if people wanted to help you, and not just you, but Filipino wrestling in general, what's the most meaningful thing they could do? Like fans in my boat, people who are fans abroad, what could they do to help out?
The best way currently, there's a couple of ways that you can actually, like, so because I have a lot of different promotions that I work for. For Puso Wrestling, for example, you can search Puso Wrestling, that's Puso Wrestling on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel there. There we upload our videos there of our matches. In terms of Dexcon, it is available on Triller TV. So Triller TV/Dexcon, I believe. I'm not sure if that's the actual URL, but just search Dexcon on Triller TV, and then you will see a lot of Filipino pro wrestling shows, Pinoy wrestling shows there. And, like, it's if you already have a subscription, just check out our shows. Give us that watch time. Get Triller TV to see the value in us so that we can keep giving you this pro wrestling, this Pinoy wrestling that we want everyone to see as well. So those are the two main ways. If you know about Pinoy wrestlers, you can follow their social media accounts. Obviously, check them out. If you find what they do cool, talk to them, talk about them with your friends. And, word of mouth goes a long way. A share on social media goes a long way. And honestly, we're just happy to do what we can for as long as we can. And it's thanks to you guys, thanks to the fans, thanks to the audience that always continue to support us in every way that you can.
And where would they find you on social media, sir?
On social media, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's all at Senorito JDL. So SENYORITO JDL. So I'm basically on social media a lot. It is also kind of like my day job. So like I'll post my clips there. I'll post my matches there. Obviously, I'll post this interview there. And I hope you guys follow me. Check me out. Like I'll be on like multiple shows coming up. Might as well plug them now if you don't mind, guys. So I'll be on.
I was just about to ask. Yeah, I was just about to ask.
I will be on Dexcon Tequila, which is coming up on May 18th, teaming up with Zack Sabre Jr. to go up against the team of Fabio Makisig and El Fantasmo. I will be at Set Up Thailand Pro Wrestling at the end of May, on May 30, for the Fallen Kingdom, where I will be teaming up with Zack Sabre Jr. again with JJ, Jonathan Johnson, the golden boy, the main guy of Set Up Thailand Pro Wrestling, going up against the real global threat in Andrew Tang and Shivam, and there's a third man that we don't know about yet. But we have Zack Sabre Jr., we have JJ, we have JDL. We're pretty good. So yeah, like guys, just follow me on social media. Check out the shows wherever you can. Support local pro wrestling wherever you are. Support Southeast Asian pro wrestling. Support Filipino pro wrestling, Philippine pro wrestling, Pinoy wrestling, and yeah, that's about it from me.
Well, Jake, I want to thank you so much for making the time, joining me and my buddy Justin Rey, who I finally got to meet for the first time live via voice. This has been an absolute blast. This has been a very special edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. Mark your calendars, May 18th. Big stuff happening for our boy Jake DeLeon. I'm Blade Daly. We will see you later. Pro Wrestling Forever.